it's the first time I've had the window open for a show since last summer. So, like, of course, there's going to be, like, people, like, doing everything outside. Yeah. Hey, welcome to Outside the Cinema, your weekly source for cult movie discussions. We're your hosts, Bill and Chris. Welcome back. Episode number, I think, 837, if you would believe that.
There.
Would you believe that?
I would, yeah. I was looking at some of the numbers the other day.
It feels it today. Today it feels like 800 and something episodes. All right, on the show this week, classic OTC fair. Doesn't really get much more classic than this. We get Messiah of Evil, 1974.
That sounds about right. It looks like an early 70s.
It is, and then also we are doing the Spanish Giallo. The killer likes the number 13. Is that what it was?
No.
The killer is one of
13.
Spanish Giallo. Paul Nash.
What I like about this, right off the bat, the title could mean a couple of different things. Like, one of these 13 people is the killer, and the killer, the person killing people now, is one of these 13 people. All of these 13 people are killers, but one of them is active.
Interesting. Original title, El Asesino está entre los 13. Los 13. So those are the movies for this week. I don't have like a lot of housekeeping. We still got the premiere coming up April 27th of Don't Forget to Leave. Tickets are still available. You can buy them through Eventbrite. Eventbrite ticket is in my bio on Instagram at OTC Bill. You can get the tickets there. We got a few left. We got a few left. So if you're interested in coming down to a cool movie premiere, we'll have like no red carpet. We may have a step and repeat you can stand in front of if I can find one for an affordable price. Live performances from Zach from the band Man Overboard. Joe, who was in Transit, is going to play, and then my buddy Matt's going to play too. So it should be good. And then we're going to show the movie publicly for the first time. Nice. Very excited about it. We'd love to have the room as full as possible.
Yeah, people better get on that.
Yeah. Once in a lifetime opportunity, guys. This is a big deal. Joe Lacey does not play solo like ever.
Oh.
So, and Zach doesn't really play solo ever either. Zach Einstein, who's in Man Overboard. Man Overboard is probably what he's best known for, but he's been in a million other bands. He does this like synth project called Echo DDT, which I love. And then he's also got another pop punk band called Zachary Ross and the Divine. And he's in a hardcore band, and like he's got 1,000,005 things going on. Great musician, great dude. So this is a good opportunity. I don't know what he's playing. I don't know if he's going to play Man Overboard songs or not, but there's a chance that he will. And that band was big.
There's a chance you could just yell out song titles and he'll be like, all right.
This is true.
I don't know him, but I do know live shows, intimate shows, they hear you.
Yeah, there's no way he won't hear you. So that's what's going on Saturday, April 27th. You can get tickets on Eventbrite, or you go to my Facebook page or any of those places, or just reach out to me. I'll tell you where to go.
If you reach out to me, I'll tell you where to go too.
Yeah, I can tell you where to go. It won't be to get the tickets, but
no, but it'll be a place.
I'll tell you where to go and how you can get off. No, wait, that's not right.
I don't know. It could be.
It's not what I meant. It's not
no
what
judgment.
I meant. Anyway, all right, yeah. So the two flicks this week: The Killer is one of 13, and Messiah of Evil. We're just gonna get right into it. It's probably gonna be a kind of a short show this week. As I was telling Chris before we went on the air, I've been so incredibly busy, not only doing my job and the filmmaker stuff I have to deal with. I also coach 3 baseball teams this year.
It seems like you get more baseball teams every year.
So this year, so Travis plays on 2 of them. He doesn't play on all 3 of them. He plays on a travel AAU team that I help coach. I'm not the head coach of that. I'm the assistant coach on that. My friend Bob coaches that team, and that's like his main team. That's his travel team. But then he also plays on a town team, which is at a level called 50-70. So 50-70 is essentially when you come out of majors, which is what everyone knows as Little League. You see the Little League World Series, that's majors. That you play that on a diamond where the base path is, I think, 60 feet, if I'm not mistaken. And then the pitching mound is 46 feet. So the level he's at now that he's out of that, he's on 50, 70. So the pitching mound is 50 feet. The base paths are 70 feet.
Okay.
The other team he plays on the AAU team is on a full-size diamond, same as like high school, college, major league, which is a 60-90, 60-foot pitching distance, 90-foot base path. You'd be shocked at how big of a difference it is. Doesn't sound like much when you say it, but then when you see a kid running down to first base on a ground ball that in Little League would have been like a triple to the outfield and is then thrown out by like 20 feet
Yeah.
by like the shortstop, it is a major difference. Major difference. So,
Makes sense.
and then I coach a third team, which is the Little League team that I've coached the last couple years. I stayed on one more year to do that because the first group of kids that I drafted 2 or 3 years ago are in their last year.
Okay.
And basically, that's the first draft class that I brought into the team. And then the other thing that what we like to do is I'm on the Little League board in town too. We don't like to put 1-year coaches on teams. So like when a coach ages out or decides he doesn't want to coach anymore, normally we will put a coach in place that's the dad of an incoming 10-year-old. And so I've been with those guys for the last 2 or 3 years, and all of the guys that are on the coaching staff are guys from that class. So they all have 12-year-old kids this year. And I didn't want them to have their kids last year be with a guy that's a brand new coach.
Gotcha.
Who doesn't know the kids, who doesn't know the team. And like I've got 3 kids, like 2 or 3 kids on that team that are really good, that all play travel ball and stuff. So wanted to give them the best opportunity as possible because I think the team is also really good this year, which sucks because it's the year after Travis finished. Like they were decent last year, but I think they're a better team this year overall. So yeah, that's why that's happening. So that's all I got.
Yeah.
That's my life until the end of June, and then I'll have a surgery on my intestines and colon, and then that'll be all I have.
Yeah. When is that again?
They haven't given me a date yet. We're planning to do it the end of June. I'm guessing that they haven't called to set the date yet because it's still like a couple months away. I'm one where just like, can we just schedule it, get it on the books so that way I can stress over
and conduct the rest of your life knowing the date,
knowing that it's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So all right, let's get back to movie stuff. The Killer is one of 13 and Messiah of Evil. I've got The Killer is one of 13 in front of me. I'm not going to play a trailer. Couldn't find one that was in English or one that wasn't also like one of those crazy long 3.5-minute trailers. So I'm not going to play one. Know that it is a Spanish giallo. It was released in 1973. It's directed by Javier Aguera. He also adapted the screenplay based on a story from Alberto S. Uncia. Starring Patty Shepard, Simon Andre, Jose Maria Prada, Trina Alonso. Actually, guys, the only name you're going to know in this is Paul Naschy. And he doesn't even play that big a role in it. So, obviously, Paul Naschy, one of the most famous cult actors, Spanish cult actors, Night of the Werewolf, Howling Beast, Howl of the Devil. Like, he's been in a ton of that stuff. He made some really great stuff. So, but this is a much more standard whodunit giallo.
Yeah.
Story is as follows, Christopher. A widow invites 13 guests to stay at her rural mansion. She reveals to them that she suspects whoever killed her husband must be one of them. Soon, too, though, they are being murdered one by one. Tried and true. Bring everyone together. Killer is among us. Killer starts knocking people off. Can you figure out who the killer is before they kill everyone?
I just want to point out that if you go to Shudder and look at this, it's going to tell you it's Italian.
Yeah.
Which, for some weird reason, because I know enough Spanish to be able to like pick out half a sentence here and there. And I'm like, why do I understand more of this than normal? Because it's not
Shudder
Italian.
tends to do that. Anything that's like in that world of like Euro horror from that time period that also like shares a genre. Like I've noticed that a couple times on. I think Spanish language is the one that it's happened with a couple times.
Yeah, but it's a very Italian-looking poster. So if they based it off of that, I can understand. But I mean, Jesus, just press play for a second.
Yeah. I actually had the same.
Here's one review.
So,
4 stars. Jared 13. Am I high or does that Italian sound incredibly like Spanish?
I mean, you're probably high, but you're also right. So, Patty Shepard plays Lisa Mandel. She is the head of this mansion. Her husband died in a bizarre accident in a plane accident the previous year. She's invited all of these people to come, and that's kind of where we're at, man. Kind of where we're at. So, it's okay.
Yeah.
The first 55 minutes of this movie are unbelievably dull.
Really?
I found the first 50 minutes very dull.
Okay, maybe it was the first half hour that I liked. Up until dinner ended, I was really interested because I'm like, oh, they're doing like what Clue did, where they're gonna go over all the stuff and everybody's gonna be a fucking possible murderer. Awesome. And then once dinner ended, it was like, okay, whatever. But I still liked it a lot more than some other stuff that we've watched in this vein.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I found it dull, but at the same time, they actually did a very good job of kind of introducing the characters. You didn't necessarily get to know so much who each of them were, but you got to understand what their place was. Because 13 characters is a lot to try to develop.
Oh yeah.
And they do a pretty good job of it. I mean, you've got the one guy that's like the popular playboy type guy that's, hitting on everybody. You got the troubled couple that's like the older man and the younger wife who struggle with that.
It's all real surface level characterization, but for this kind of thing, it works because like with mystery novels and stuff, you don't always get deep characterization. So that's okay. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, so they lay the groundwork. You said, they bring everyone in, they all introduce each other. They have a big dinner where Lisa is basically like, hey, there's some tomfoolery going on here.
Yeah.
One of you is responsible for the death of my husband, and I'm going to find out who.
Yeah.
And you're off and running. And that's really, I mean, there's obviously a lot more said than that.
Right.
But you're off and running at that point where then everybody is questioning each other as to who is responsible for what. Everyone has got these discretions that they've made that they don't want to say that they did.
Right.
And then everyone is also questioning what their own involvement is because they're like, well, I was at this place at this time. Could I be,
Right.
And it's pretty engaging. But the issue is that, like, for me, and I've now been kind of set to be like, all right, we need to ramp up the murders.
Okay.
Because we obviously know that we've got potentially 13 of them, more likely it's going to be 11 or 12 that are coming. And they wait so long to start that.
That's true.
But when they do, it's like murder after murder after murder. Like,
there was a point when I was watching this where I'm like, you know what? That would be so subversive to just have a giallo type film without a single murder in it, and it's just about someone else's murder. I thought that would be absolutely brilliant. Nobody agreed with me because that's not what they did, but I thought that would be really interesting. But they, half the movie they tricked me.
They did, yeah. But when the murders start, they're quick, they're violent. Classic black glove killer. We see him, or the killer. We see the killer, and they do one of those things where like they show the killer in silhouette, and they have different people playing the killer. So at one point you're like, well, that's definitely a woman,
Right.
and then the next you're like, well, that's a man. So there's a number of kind of things going on that they're trying to fool you.
Yeah. Like what they did in The Thing, where when the dog goes to see the one guy, you don't know who it is because they used like a stunt actor or an extra or stand-in to cast the shadow on the wall, so you can't, directly see who it is and figure it out. So you don't know who the first one the dog infected was. So same idea. Good job.
Agreed. So this is, I mean, there's really like the funny thing is like there's not like a lot to say about this. The murders are like very kind of standard. Girl gets it in the tub.
Yeah.
Gets stabbed in the chest.
Oh yeah.
One woman gets.
This is all just getting rid of the competition. witnesses kind of murders. There's nothing fancy about any of it. There's no
Sorry,
flourish.
I'm sorry. I keep looking at my phone because I got like 2 or 3 texts that came in at once. Apologies.
It's all right. You're a busy person. Everybody knows that. Well, they should.
Well, and it's like everything seems to be hitting at once.
Yeah. Plus, it's not the normal day that we record too. So.
Right. Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, they're all very like the garrote is like the one you see that a lot. A lot of people getting stabbed. I did like. They did the thing where the killer, like trashed the phones.
Yeah.
Flat tired all the cars. We see at the beginning when they're all arriving that it's a pretty secluded place and it's not like a lot of other stuff around it.
Yeah. Were they on an island?
I don't know if they were on an island, but they were definitely like out like in the middle of nowhere.
Like they can't get away.
Correct. No. Well, that's the thing too, is there's a point where they're talking about the cars being wrecked, but before they realize before she says that the cars were wrecked, they are like, oh, we could take one of the cars if the phones aren't working. We can take one of the cars to the police. It'll only take 2 to 3 hours.
Okay,
so we know that they're definitely not close.
Right. Anybody that tries to get away would be caught if they were on foot, because that's
correct.
That's just too far of a distance. Yeah. So
but
essentially, we could essentially say they're on an island. It's more or less. I mean, it's the same effect.
So they're all ready to go, man. Like they're ready to like figure out who the killer is, and then people are getting knocked off. There's not a lot to say about this. They're just really it's done, I think, fairly well for what they're trying to do. They hide who the killer is pretty well. I figured it out like pretty close to the reveal.
I was trying to figure it out earlier, and I'm like, there's too many suspicious people right
Well, that was the thing. And that was with having 13 characters. There was definitely like a lot of red herrings thrown out. And just like the limited information you were given, it was hard to figure it out. But once it starts, they pull it together in the final like 10 minutes of the film. You're like, okay, all of that makes sense.
Yeah, my first suspicion was the blonde girl that was with the redhead and the brunette that had the squinty eyes. Yes. She had a real suspicious look, but I'm not saying who it was.
Right. But classic, genre fare for this time period, beautiful women, beautiful locations.
Yep.
It all works. Yeah. There's not really a whole lot for me else to say. Do you have anything in particular you want to bring out? I know this is a super short review of it, but like there's just not a lot to say without revealing who the killer is.
Right. Because that's what I was thinking when I was watching it. I'm like, this is actually a decent mystery story, built off the backs of some of the best mystery writers. But considering it's not Italian, I was very surprised how much it encompassed the entire genre. They did a really good job. Hitting all the marks for all of it. It really felt like that's why I imagine that's why the people on Shudder leaving the reviews are confused about why it's in Spanish.
For sure.
But that's high praise, because you either get it right, which most people don't outside of Italy and the time period. But this wasn't outside the time period, but you know what I mean. Or you're just a pale knockoff imitation of it, and this wasn't an imitation. This is I think a pretty decent entry into the genre.
I agree. All right, let me hit one of these buttons. All right, Chris, do you recommend, and what is your grade for The Killer is One of 13?
I am going to recommend it, and I'm going to give one example of something that I did not like in it, and then hopefully I can think of something I did like in it. There are a lot of characters, and they're introduced very fast, and a couple of them maybe sort of, if you're not paying attention as well as I could have been, they look the same. So when people are talking to people, it's like, what's your deal again? Who are you? And that always kind of bugs me when you have so many like good looking people in a movie and you can't keep track of them. That might just be me.
Right.
I don't know. But when the woman in charge of the whole soiree is talking to people, I'm like, is that the same? Because he's not wearing his outfit. Is that the same guy that was just, now they're in bed? What is who is this guy? And then I had to just really pay attention. But that's a problem that I personally have with large cast that I'm not familiar with the actors. I sometimes have a difficult time when it's, real fast moving, not a lot of characterization,
Yep.
and you have to keep
exactly
track of all these people because it's a mystery. And I always believe that the filmmakers want you to try to solve it along with the characters.
Mm.
And sometimes that's not so easy for me. Sometimes I can like fall asleep, wake up and go, it's that guy. But I didn't fall asleep during this one. So, which is something good. That's high praise.
No, that's for sure.
I actually remember, because I watched it last night, so it would be fresh. I remember watching it thinking, this is, there was at the dinner table where they're doing like the bottle part of the bottle episode part of the movie. And I'm like, this is well written. This is well acted. The motivations are good. There's nothing ridiculously over the top at this point. I'm not going to say if there is later because I want surprises. But yeah, all in all, this was way better than I thought, especially given that the title, but the title's pitch fucking perfect.
Yeah.
For this.
Surprisingly.
Yeah. I hadn't thought of that. I just thought, good job picking a good title.
I mean, you think of so many of those Giallo titles. There's like really cool and great titles, but like they don't make it like your vice is a locked room and only I have the key.
Yeah, that's up there with some of the anime titles I've been seeing. Like My Year is a whatever.
Lizard in a woman's skin.
Yeah. Oh.
Don't torture a duckling.
Yeah, there's a lot that don't make sense. But this one, at least you could watch and be like, okay, I kind of get what they're going for with this.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll recommend it. I'm going to give this a B, just a regular, straight old B, because I could see myself watching at least 3/4 of this again. Because like the end reveal, like I already know what's going to happen, so that's not as important to me. But yeah, good for them. They did a really good job.
So I'm going to recommend it, but I did find the front half of it kind of dull. Only because there's a lot of talking. And it is in Spanish, not Italian.
Right.
Right. So the subtitles are hitting you very quick.
Yeah.
So like if you're not locked in and you're having a hard time rolling with it, like it can get like, what are they talking about now? Or like, and just about everything that they're saying is going along good with the story they're trying to tell.
Yeah,
there isn't like a lot of like needless dialogue.
Right. That's what I was going to say. It's all pretty much plot oriented, which is nice.
Right. So as much as I would love for them to have ramped the murders up earlier, it makes sense in the story that they're telling because you have to get all of that other information out before people start getting knocked off.
Right, because then there's no motivation if you don't.
Right. The only thing, and like the story, I kind of wish there had been one of those people that maybe got killed before they got there, and they were like waiting on that person to be there, but then they think maybe that's the person who's the killer.
Oh, okay,
Now I'm rewriting the entire story. So
I fully expected, and I don't think this ruins it for anybody, but I fully expected the husband to be alive. Did I miss it? He wasn't alive. He was dead, right?
No, he wasn't. No, he was dead.
Okay, because for a second in my head, I'm like, wait, was it the guy that she was in bed with and I just don't know what he looks like? No, he was actually dead the whole time. Okay.
He was dead, yeah.
Good.
So, I'm feeling C+, borderline B-, I think. It is. I found it a little dull at the beginning. But overall, it kicks back in and redeems itself.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's good, not great.
That's fair.
So, have it.
It's
funny. I was telling you how I keep getting text messages. So Travis has a hitting coach, and he hates going to the lessons.
Oh.
And his hitting coach hasn't been available the last few weeks because he also coaches the girls softball team over in Dammers. I think it's Danvers. Well, I don't know, one of the high schools over there. So he texted me. He's like, I know you're on vacation this week. And we get Travis in for a lesson. And I texted over to Travis while we were talking, and he's just like, oh. But I'm like, the reason why you're a much better hitter now is because you go to these lessons.
Yeah.
So you can't just stop going. But he's also like still just laying in bed, and it's 12 o'clock, and I need to get.
That's fair. Yeah, because it is vacation week.
Right. Okay, cool. Messiah of Evil is next. I thought we had covered this.
I
think
thought
maybe it's
so
just
too, but
I couldn't find.
No, we did something that was sort of like a Coffin Joe movie that had the same title, didn't we? Because that was what I instantly thought.
Coffin Joe was
like
what was the last one he did?
Was it a Spanish language?
Embodiment of Evil?
Maybe, yeah. And then I know we've done others with Messiah in the title.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's. But if you type in Messiah on Shudder or just a general horror movie search, you're gonna get creamed with titles.
It's very true. Very true. So Messiah Evil, 1974. I do have a trailer for this guy. Let's take a look.
They say that nightmares are dreams perverted. I've told them here it wasn't a nightmare. But they don't believe me. They nod and make little notes in my file. Not far from here, there's a small town on the coast. They used to call it New Bethlehem, but they changed the name to Point Doom after the moon turned blood red. Point Doom doesn't look any different than 1,000 other neon stucco towns. But what happened there, what they did to me, what they're doing now. They're coming here. They're waiting at the edge of the city. They're peering around buildings at night. And they're waiting. They're waiting for you. And they'll take you one by one, and no one will hear you scream. No one will hear you scream!
All right, Messiah of Evil, 1974, directed by Willard Huck and Gloria Katz in an uncredited direction part here. And then the two of them worked on the screenplay together also. Starring Michael Greer, Mariana Hill, Joy Bang, Anitra Ford, Royal Dano, Elisha Cook Jr., and Charles Dierkop. So you have a young woman. She's got her father's an artist. He's gone missing, so she's going searching for him. This brings her to a weird California seaside town that is just kind of like where he like had set up a studio, but she stopped hearing from him. And it's weird, but there's like all kinds of weirdness going on here.
Yeah. Yeah. My first impression is that this was heavily inspired by Carnival of Souls.
I got that feel too.
Okay,
yep.
Good. And that was pretty much it, except for one specific scene that I texted you about that I'm not so sure about watching it over again, but I really think that there's a part in this movie that influenced the Large Marge scene in Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Agreed. I didn't catch it until you said it, but once you said it, it was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, because it's just, and I showed Ellen too, it's so weird and so just out of nowhere. Like, he doesn't fit the whole rest of the film. Just like Large Marge didn't, because there's no supernatural shit in Pee-wee's Big Adventure except for that one scene. So it was just weird to me.
Yeah.
The whole movie's just kind of a weird, arty kind of thing.
Yeah, it's got a cool feel to it, I think, though. So you got Arletta, who's your main character. She's the daughter of the missing artist. And she comes to this town, and there's just like not a lot of people around. The people that are around are weird. Then she runs into this guy Tom, who's played by Michael Greer, who probably he's best known. We've seen him in a couple things. He was in like Curious Female, and he was in The Rose and stuff.
Oh, okay.
But he plays like the Playboy-esque, well-dressed, cool guy, I guess. He's got like multiple women with him. He's got Anitra Ford, who we've seen in a couple of things. She was in The Big Birdcage. She was in what was that weird B movie we watched too? But not like we watched not B movies, but like BEE movie that was like the alien thing with the women or something. The hell is that movie called?
Shit, you stumped me.
Invasion of the Bee Girls.
Oh, damn. I haven't thought about that since we stopped talking about it.
Understandable. But she was in that, so she's one of the girlfriends, and then we also got Joy Bang. She's another one of this guy Tom's girlfriends. She was in Night of the Cobra Woman, I think is what I recognized her from. But she also did a lot of TV in the 70s, like Adam 12 and shit like that.
Oh yeah, I remember Adam 12.
So yeah, he's got these like two girlfriends, and they're at a hotel room, and they're talking to this weird homeless guy who's telling them weird stories and stuff. And Arletta comes across all of them because she's looking for the father, and supposedly the father was seen by these people, and so she ends up going over there. But then some weird stuff happens, and then Tom and the two women end up staying with Arletta at the studio space because they got kicked out of the hotel. And there's just kind of like this underlying, like there's a like underlying cult atmosphere for, again, not like cult movies, but like cult like Scientology.
Yeah, it's
cult people deal with it.
Dude's got a little bit of a Manson vibe going on.
A little bit.
Yeah, because that was the style at the time.
True. So the majority of the movie is really like this group of people not only looking for the father, but also trying to figure out why everyone's so weird. And then the townspeople start to kind of pick these people off one by one, and they're like, I mean, they're like zombies, but more functioning.
Yeah.
But they are definitely cannibals.
Yeah.
Because as they catch people, they eat them.
That's why I was thinking Carnival of Souls, because everybody looks like a corpse or a ghost in that one. And here, it's just ramped up a little bit for shock value.
Yeah. Yeah. So, as they start to pick people off, we get a little bit more background and storytelling of a stranger that had come to this town back in like the 1800s, 100 years prior to this. So, like the late 1800s or whatever. And how he had brought, I guess, this, they kind of like refer to it as almost like a disease. Because he attacks like a guy, and then that guy then attacks other people, and it spreads. And supposedly this guy's coming back after 100 years. So there's all these different shots we get of like people waiting on the beach with like bonfires and
almost like a religious thing.
Yeah. And they talk about the stranger. We only see him briefly in flashbacks and briefly at the end, but it all kind of comes together. Some of it works, some of it doesn't, right?
Yeah, that's true.
What worked for you?
The atmosphere, I think, is
For sure.
is the biggest thing. I have a hard time with hippies, because most times in movies they're not genuine. They don't embody the spirit of the movement. They're there to be a bad guy or a dope or a stoner, and it's just not at the time, but now it's just cliched to have, a dickhead hippie fucking everybody's shit up. That definitely didn't work. The whole vibe of the community living and all that. I don't go for that. I don't. Like
It's not something I would ever.
No.
I would ever partake in.
I mean, I could be friends with people like that. Absolutely. I just need my own private space. And they don't have that at all.
No, they don't.
Plus, they're almost homeless, it looks like. So
yeah.
I don't know. I kind of had a hard time with like, why is this guy so important if he can't like pay his fucking rent?
Yeah, and he doesn't really do anything.
No.
So like he's there. He's got these hot chicks with him.
That's it.
And he's able to get Arletta like on board with him, but he just never really does anything.
Yeah. It was he was whatever as a character. Just can't get behind it.
Yeah, and I agree with you. What works in this film is the atmosphere.
And pretty much just that for me.
Yeah, the screenplay is not good, very convoluted. And when we do get our conclusion, I felt like the conclusion was a wet fart. Too.
I wasn't even sure that was a good conclusion or that the movie was even over.
Yeah, they do I think a pretty good job of building up the mythology that they're working with. Like the shots on the beach with the fires and the people just waiting by the water, like that stuff all works.
Absolutely.
But that's all part of the atmosphere, which both of us are in agreement on. The atmosphere is great. The feel is great.
Yeah.
I just felt like they didn't really know what their end game was. And that's no more evident than in the scene when Arletta's father just shows up again.
Yeah.
Like, they've been looking for him the whole time, and then he returns and he's like, oh, like I told you not to come or whatever, but now I'm a cannibal because they took care of me and I'm gonna eat you. And she's just like, I don't understand any of this. And I'm like, well, neither do I.
Yeah.
So
yeah. What year was this one?
74?
Was this at the height of the cannibal movie? Boom.
No, and
Oh shit. Stop. You still there?
I'm here. Yeah.
Okay, good. Because I hit a button and VLC just went full screen for some reason.
Oh, nope, I'm here.
Okay, good. Let me see. It almost feels like to me that the cannibal stuff was thrown in to kind of
Right.
play.
Well, and
off
it's
of
also
that.
like zombies were hot at this time too. So
yeah,
but the idea that like the town was Point Dune is what the town was called.
Doom, Dume, which they say Doom like the game, but it's not. It just sounds like it, which doesn't. I mean, what does that matter at that point if nobody's
Right.
going to see it written down? Oh yeah, Cannibal Holocaust was 1980. That's later than I always remember it being,
Yeah.
which is weird.
But but the dead live in the town with the mixed in with the living, and they only go after certain people.
yeah,
But the biggest miss is that we don't ever find out why people turn into the zombies. Like there's no reason given other than maybe once they taste the flesh, they become zombies.
like
but
a
no,
Wendigo kind of thing. That's what I was thinking.
maybe,
Yeah.
but it's never explained.
No. So the background on this, it says it was released theatrically in late 74 and would be re-released in a number of alternate titles, including Dead People. That's creative.
Okay.
Night of the Damned, Return of the Living Dead. No. And Revenge of the Screaming Dead. That one's fine. You can
Okay.
have that one.
Well, this was this was before Dawn of the Dead, because Dawn of the Dead wasn't until what, like,
That was 79, wasn't it?
yeah. So this predates a lot of the zombie craze, which is interesting.
Yeah. The directors
But I mean,
of this-
I felt like they're trying to do H.P. Lovecraft here without
Yes.
diving too deep into it.
Yeah, there was
Because-
a little bit of Color Out of Space, a little bit of Innsmouth, a little bit of everything going on here. Yeah.
Dagon was the one that I was feeling.
Well, Innsmouth, Shadow over Innsmouth, and Dagon are kind of hand in hand in my head.
Right.
I should point out that Hayek and Katz directed Howard the Duck, and they produced the screenplays for American Graffiti and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if it's this movie, but I thought I read that it was filmed and like not completely finished, and then a French company bought it. I could be thinking about something else.
Well,
though.
I know it took a couple years because it was filmed in like 70 or 71, and it took a couple years to get it released.
Yeah.
So I don't know
let's
if it
see I
was
can
not
find-
finished or what. But I mean, there's some effective stuff in this. The scene when she's with the albino guy in the truck and he's eating the live mice. I mean,
Yes.
that was fucking weird.
Yeah, and he's an albino African American man, which
Yeah.
I mean at the time,
Benny Robinson.
yeah, and he looks a little surreal. especially the way he's lit and acting and all that. It all comes together. He's a good choice for it. It says here, as posted on her blog in 2011, actress Anitra Ford writes, shot in 1971, this movie was originally titled The Second Coming. Toward the end of filming, investors pulled their money out and the film was never finished. A Frenchman bought the unedited footage, edited it together, and released the movie under the title Messiah of Evil. In 2003, in the horror film genre, the British Film Institute hailed Messiah of Evil as a rare work of cinematic genius.
I don't know if I go that far.
For the time and going with the surreal stuff, I could see that. And to take an unfinished film and make mostly watchable, understandable movie isn't a bad thing. Because we've seen it the other way around, where a movie isn't finished, and then we get Raiders of the Lost Dead Part 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah. I mean, I think more works with this than misses. There's this great scene too where one of the two girls goes into the movie theater and she sits down to watch a trailer for some old Western. Sammy Davis Jr. is in the trailer, which is kind of hilarious. And she's sitting there. I got a frog in my throat. Hold on. Excuse me. So as she's sitting there, slowly the theater starts to fill with the zombified members of the town. They slowly come in a couple at a time, and they all sit behind her.
Yeah.
And the place fills up to probably a little over half full. And then two people walk in, and they come in to the row that she's sitting in, and they sit down not directly next to her, but within a few seats.
Yeah.
And she looks at one and gives it the side eye, and then she looks at the other side and gives it a side eye, and then slowly realizes that all of these other people are now in the theater behind her. And it's a really, really effective scene. She did a great job. That was Joy Bang doing that scene. And when she starts to realize it and she goes to get up and leave, and they all just kind of keep watching the movie. And she gets up and she gets out of the row and she finds that the doors are locked. And then she goes to the front and tries to open one of the doors there. And then they all turn and look at her at the same time. And it's super effective.
Oh, yeah.
Really creepy.
As I was watching it, and that happens, and the doors are locked. First thing that popped in my head was, nah, that's a fire hazard.
Right. But also then, they're just those doors. There's no locks on the doors. That's the thing. There's no locks. They just don't open.
Just supernatural.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, just some weird. I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff. I think the atmosphere works. A lot of the scenes work, but the issue is that the screenplay is kind of a mess.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Why don't we just? Why is that? What did I do here? Oh, I hit the wrong. Hang on, I hit the wrong thing. Damn it. All right, Chris, do you recommend, and what is your grade for Messiah of Evil?
I think I will recommend it.
Okay.
Just because I think people should check it out to see, the visual style of it, because it's both set up really well and also it looks kind of haphazard. So it's almost like the interesting stuff is an accident in a way. Which I found kind of interesting because, how do you do that? How do you do both of those things?
Right.
And they did a really good job. It definitely looks like it was made fast and cheap. I'll say that. But they're on actual locations. They're doing stuff with what they have around them. It was well done, but it tried to be confusing. I feel the editing of it, and that could have been the fault of this is the footage he had and what they had to work with that made it surreal. Because nothing's ever really there's no closure on some of it, so it's just it's a weird little flick that's I don't know. It's hard to put it into a box because it's not really zombies. It's not really ghosts or hallucinations, but it is all of that all at the same time anyway.
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, it feels like it's aping on a bunch of stuff. Not in a bad way though, because like you see parts of this and it's like, oh, that's like this movie, but it's different enough where you're like, okay, they took that idea and ran with it instead of just making something. We covered something called Off Season, I believe.
Yeah.
And it sort of reminded me of that a little bit, where it's like you got the one normal person in quotes, and they're not sure what's going on, and you are clued in as much as they are, which is an interesting way to tell a story. I do actually like that.
Yeah, I very much remembered that movie watching this because of the seaside town setting.
Yeah, and how weird they all can be. Trust me, we know. We live around weird seaside towns.
It's Gloucester, so bizarre.
So I'm gonna give this a B minus. I'm not saying run out and watch it. I'm not saying it's great, but there's something about it that's pretty interesting. But that's a personal level, so your mileage may vary.
No, I'm actually not far off from your thoughts on it. It is definitely a strange little film that you don't really hear it talked about very much. Like I've seen the name come up a couple times, but this I think is a good one for people when people are talking about like, oh, like weird cult films that you may not have seen.
Yeah.
Like this goes on that list and you're not like, oh, okay.
Right.
So I think the things that work very well in it, as we said earlier, is the atmosphere that we're given. There's a couple of really great scenes. That scene in the truck with the albino guy, the movie theater scene, the scenes where Tom's running around the town and there's nobody, and then like all of a sudden there's all these people. Like I think a lot of that stuff all works very, very well.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the screenplay doesn't exactly back up the great things they're able to build with the low budget they have. So it's the type of thing where it's, you kind of give and take. Like, and I think a film like this, having the atmosphere may be more important than the screenplay being coherent. It's coherent. There's just a lot of weird things that you're just like, why would they do that?
Yeah.
So I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to go with a B. I'm going to go with a B minus, borderline B. I think it's much like the first film we said. It's good. It's not great, but it's definitely, if you watch it, I think you're gonna be okay with it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's making any end of year lists or anything like that, but solid.
It won't
for
for me either way, good or bad. It's one of those right in the middle things.
But it's better than middle of the road.
Yeah, it is.
I think good, not great is the perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move along swiftly here. Our good buddy Joe is back. He's doing is it the remake of Slumber Party Massacre?
I don't know what we're at now.
Let's just play to find out.
Okay, take 4. Hello, Bill. Hello, Chris, and hello, OTC Nation. Your boy Joe here, and boy, I hope this doesn't get weird. I got maybe like a combined total of like maybe 9 hours of sleep this weekend. Bill made me watch Slumber Party Massacre, the remake from 2021. I think I've stated before that I have no problem with remakes, just the choices of what is being remade. And honestly, even that, I've like super chilled out over. I'm too old, and there's too many things that I want to watch to worry about the things that I don't. And honestly, there's little to no point about getting upset over somebody doing something with intellectual property that you don't own in the first place. Now get off my lawn and get a haircut, said the grumpy old movie nerd. I know that a Billy Joel quote might seem a bit off here, but from his song Angry Young Man, I once believed in causes too, and had my pointless point of view, but life went on no matter who was wrong or right. I think when it comes to life's smaller conflicts, like getting pissed off over a remake, conflicts and irritants, I think that drunk little douchebag from Long Island kind of nailed it. Closer to the current topic, I think Slumber Party Massacre is a good choice for a film to remake. It's not like SPM had the same like cultural influence and importance that Back to the Future had, where it would ruin my childhood if they remade it or whatever. It broke exactly 0 box office records. And if there's anyone out there whose favorite film of all time is the original SPM, there's nothing any of us could have done for them anyway. So before I press play, you know what movie I would really like to see a remake of? Curtains. Remember that one?
Yeah.
I'm sure if any audience in the world knows the movie I'm talking about, it's the OTC Nation. Yeah. It's a cute little slasher from Canada that I think is kind of a hidden gem of the era, despite having some faults.
I feel like we covered it at some point.
A lot of faults, but I still like it. It had some interesting ideas that you could re-explore, and it's like self-contained in one location, so you wouldn't even need like an eighth of the budget that you would need to remake like Aliens or Ghostbusters or Tootsie.
Tootsie.
I'm pausing to see if that curveball got a laugh. No? Fine, whatever. Let's get into it.
More confused than
We fade up in 1993 as a group of teenage girls who rented a cabin in the woods are having fun when Russ Thorne, and I dig that they kept the killer's name from the original, shows up and... Wait, I forgot something. The girls are there to comfort their friend who just dumped her boyfriend, like Mike Tyson is going to drop that shitty little internet douchebag Paul guy pretty soon. He shows up to try to win her back, and we all knew this kid in the early 90s. He's the skinny white boy in baggy jeans below his ass, a FUBU shirt that's like 3 sizes too big, even though he's not one of us,
That tracks.
and a mustache that only ever looked good on John Waters. The kind of kid who grew up in Auburn Hills and would tell you he's from Detroit. Google that if you don't get it. Anyway, mercifully, he gets iced first. It's classic 80s like slasher spree time before we cut to the present after the credits. The final girl, or at least the final girl of the opening, hits this dude. At the beginning, right before the credits, she hits Russ Thorne with an oar, knocking him into the water where he is supposed to have drowned. And the way they filmed this, a like maybe 120-pound teenager hitting a full-grown man with a boat oar has the same impact and velocity of like a Peterbilt semi going 55, because he flies like 20 feet off this goddamn dock, full flip, right into the water. Still not mad, though. They're doing fine straddling the line between parody and horror. I am still engaged. The second half is hard to explain in the 8 to 9 minute time frame that I usually give myself for what is supposed to just be a fun little thing at the end of the show, but I'll do my best. So there's a new group of girls that is led by the daughter of the main girl from the open, and we are going back to the lake for what we're led to believe is some kind of party. Her mom had yada, yada, yada. But turns out they're actually there to kill Russ Thorne, who's just been living in the woods for the last 20 years, I guess. He must smell fantastic. There's a group of like really vapid,
This is a
attractive
remake?
men who panic at the first sign of
what he
trouble.
said.
And okay, I see you, parody, with your scantily clad little teenage boys with abs and everything. They don't eat a lot of bread. That's one thing this movie does pretty well. It manages to still be a horror movie instead of a comedy while still parodying its target. I can't forget the guy that plays Russ Thorne here, though. He is doing an exaggerated impression of the OG Russ Thorne, and it's maybe the most over-the-top thing in the film. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. He's constantly doing mad killer face, it's like a grimace of rage with his head tilted up, but his eyes are facing down. And while I do believe he understood the assignment, I think he kind of went for some extra credit, and it's just too bad that the teacher caught on to that, and he got an A- instead of an A for his trouble. I'm back and forth on the fighting back against the killer thing here. Like, I get the overall idea, but on one hand, the women empowering, taking back the night concept is tried and true, and it works, and I never really mind seeing it. Like, these girls are on a mission, and good for them. It's not too much because they're not invincible, and they still get scared shitless when they're face to face with a dude with a big old fuck off hammer drill. On the other hand, if you are going into an unfamiliar environment to slay a maniacal serial killer, and nobody thought to stop by like a Dick's Sporting Goods for some practical clothing or, I don't know, a gun? Like, this isn't Jason Voorhees or Godzilla here. This is just a dude. And the last I knew, just one round of 12-gauge buckshot to the head or center mass of the chest, is the prescription for serial killer-itis. Side effects include a change of clothes because some of homie's left lung and a bunch of his blood got all over your gear. Unless, in your survival pack, you remembered a liter of soda and a microfiber cloth. If you did, there's got to be some kind of merit patch for that. They just killed Senior Thorne, and I'm noticing that there's 26 minutes left in the movie. Maybe they'll have an ice cream party? 20 minutes later, nope. His mom is there. She's the lady at the gas station in the beginning, and you kind of had a little red herring thing with her, but she turns out to be his mom, and she's all mad that these girls attacked her sweet boy, and it's their fault that he's like a violent sexual pervert. You know, this movie had me until this weird tacked-on ending. I'll give it this, though. It's still a hell of a lot better than part 3, though. Here's the thing. The good. The kills are fantastic with a combination of practical gore and CGI. It looks really good. Unlike 3, it didn't sound like they recorded the audio on like an old cassette recorder they found in an almost out of business thrift store. And they managed to parody the slasher genre without plunging into comedy. The bad. I think this got relegated to airing on Sci-Fi because it came out around the same time a few other movies like this did. I think maybe the remake of Black Christmas and whatever. And I think they lost confidence in it. And I think that's maybe because there's more than one black person in it and that the neckbeards would review bomb it for being, quote, woke, unquote. Gag. It's just a shame to live in a world where part 3 made a profit in theaters, and I had never heard of this film until last week. I actually really enjoyed this. Shrug, moving on. Which leads us to Bill. What are you going to torture me with next, buddy?
Well, if we did the Slumber Party Massacres, why don't we do Sorority House Massacre?
Sure.
I think there's at least 2 or 3 of those.
All right, OTC Nation, you heard the man. I'll be back with that next week. Until then, be good, everyone.
That just seemed weird. It was a remake of the original, but literally didn't have any of the same story. I mean, I'm sure that wouldn't be the first time, but
yeah, I mean, yeah, but sometimes they just make something to hold on to the property.
I don't know.
Could be that.
I don't know.
Now, did he say people from there would identify as coming from Chicago? The people from Auburn Hills,
Detroit. Oh,
okay. It's basically on the very, very edge of what could be considered urban, suburban Detroit.
It would be like me saying I'm from Boston.
Yeah. It's like 25, 30 miles from the middle of where it says Detroit on the map at the mouth of the river. So, yeah, I get it. Just for people that didn't look it up, there you go.
All right. Well, let's see what Reverend Scott has to say this week.
I learned that when you get shot, you pee yourself from LA Story.
Yeah.
Because, good luck holding it in.
Got nothing to lose at that point.
No.
Yeah, nothing but your urine.
What?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
With Reverend Scott.
This is stupid, but listen.
Hey there, Bill and Chris. This is Reverend Scott.
Speaking of important pieces of ass.
You got that
Oh!
right. And I'm excited to talk about what devilish movie I saw this week. And if you listened to last week's segment, then you already know. But you don't get to hear about that yet. You gotta wait. Grow some fucking patience, you eager beaver. Did you really think I was just gonna start with that?
We all kind of secretly knew that it wouldn't happen.
We have some slightly more depressing shit to go over first.
It's a Patreon show. It's a show made by one of our listeners, not one of my listeners, made by one of our friends. This is an Ollie show.
And Ollie had you guys start with
All right, Threads, 1984.
1984, just like the time we live in now. So tell us about this uplifting, feel-good flick.
Threads there's no fantasy about Threads. Threads is 100% like if a bomb was dropped on the UK, this is what would happen.
Yeah, we know. Mad Max, cool cars, masks, Thunderdomes.
Very dirty, very gross. There's cats on fire, dead kids, dogs buried in rubble, like burnt to ash babies, people that become mutants, people throwing up everywhere. Like
Jesus Christ, that doesn't sound like Mad Max at all.
Like it's real simple. If this happens, everybody dies.
Yeah.
There's no win for anybody, no matter what you think is right. Everyone dies.
Yes.
Okay, that's enough of that, young man. Can we just change the subject or something?
And I was aware of the Cold War and the missiles that were being moved around and the types that we had and who was where and what Russia was saying and all of the music and other stuff that was put out at the time. And it was a fucking miserable time to be a kid.
You're talking specifically about Billy Joel's We Didn't Start the Fire.
Yes.
I give Threads 1984 a C-, and the review gets a B for
Leonard Bernstein.
How's that for a song reference?
No.
Okay, Bill, what's next?
Okay, let's move on to a different type of depressing. Let's move on to Whistle, and I'll come to you.
Remind me, what was this one about? Because I wasn't really listening to this part of the show.
What happens upon a strange whistle while exploring a Knights Templar cemetery on the East Anglian coast? When blown, the whistle unleashes a frightening supernatural force.
I swear, if A24 doesn't buy the rights just to use the name alone in the next 5 years, then they're really missing out. Because I have a feeling their scriptwriters could do a lot more than the original writer of this did.
There's not a lot of story in the one I watched.
No, and there's not a lot of story in the one that I watched either.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was so good that you watched 2 different versions. How did that go?
It didn't do a very good job of building a mood for me, though.
Well, the Threads didn't put you in the mood, then this certainly didn't have a prayer. So anyway, I'm ready to talk about the movie I watched, so just spoil this one for me so we can move on.
He's having these scary moments where he thinks that death is coming for him because it is.
And then it just ends.
So
what's
the resolution of it?
The ghosts are real?
Okay.
Sweet. The non-A24 version of Whistle and I'll Come On You gets an F+, and the review gets a B+. Now back to what I saw, because I'm pumped to talk about this, because last weekend I went to the IMAX and saw Godzilla vs. Kong: The New Empire.
Are you fucking kidding me?
And it was fine, C+.
It's not bad.
Okay.
But after that, I got tickets for Late Night with the Devil, 10:30 p.m. on a Saturday night in a regular old little theater, and there were more people in that than in my IMAX 7 p.m. Friday night showing of Godzilla vs. Kong. That's how you know that you got a crowd that is just as pumped as you are for this flick. And the first thing that will strike you about this movie is just how it's structured. It's pretty cool. It's kind of like a mockumentary of sorts, but for the first 5 or 10 minutes or so, it briefly covers the rise to stardom of the Night Owls with Jack Delroy show. It has a charismatic talk show host competing in the ratings with Johnny Carson. And then after the tragic loss of his wife and leaving TV for several months, Jack returns triumphantly and decides that he needs to get a boom in the ratings for Sweeps Week. on Halloween night 1977. What comes next after this prologue is the full uncut episode of Night Owls that aired that night live on television. And during the commercial breaks, you get to watch all of the almost reality TV style footage. It's behind the scenes and in black and white. And it's borderline like watching found footage without really being found footage, if that makes any sense. It's a really cool transition to even changing the aspect ratio depending on whether you're watching the original kind of 4:3 footage that was on TV to the basically widescreen footage that's behind the scenes and in black and white. And on this particular episode on Halloween night, there's lots of bats and spooky things, and they have a mind-reading mystic named Christo or something, and then there's a skeptic. He's an ex-magician that's now a skeptic, and then there's the parapsychologist June Ross Mitchell, along with Lily. And there's quite a backstory to Lily. She was saved from a cult that had a tragic ending, and Dr. June thinks that Lily, inside her, has a demon, or maybe even
Lilith?
the devil himself.
Interesting.
And everyone on the show is instantly uneasy about this girl, especially Jack's sidekick, Gus. Gus is thinking,
Dude, what the fuck are you getting us into?
but Jack assures everyone with some heavy convincing with Dr. June that everything will be very safe. And if they need to stop, they'll stop. But it's also sweeps week, so they need to beat Carson.
Yeah, I get that. If it's the right thing to do, you fucking do it.
That's all I really want to say about the details of this movie. It's very well done. There's a lot more backstory involving Jack's wife, his rise to stardom, and some of the various things with the different guests. And it's very well done. It just keeps ramping up more and more as the show goes along. It's not super fast paced, but it keeps you interested, and it has enough going on to really keep your attention and keep you guessing on where it's going to go next. And I also like the fact that they have this skeptic on here because he's always trying to poke holes in what's going on and how people might be doing things and debunking them if he can. And he's supposed to be I can't remember the name of the real guy, but he offers like $1 million or something like that to anybody that can prove that they can really do telekinesis or telepathy or whatever the heck they say they can do.
Who's the Amazing
This guy's
Randy?
basically a version of that character.
Right, Randy?
And the way this movie's put together just makes it even more interesting with the cool cartoon commercial break signs and the behind the scenes stuff that really adds a lot more ominous feel to the whole thing. And the sparing use of special effects really gives them a much more dramatic impact too. And even though that you know and I know that this is actually the same actor as Polka Dot Man, it never really feels like that. It feels like you're actually watching Jack Delroy. It has a much different tone and feeling overall, and it still has a very realistic impact somehow.
Oh, 100%. Like 100%.
It always has this really ominous feeling of
Okay, guess what? Y'all gonna fucking die soon.
this movie was just fucking cool, different, very memorable. It's just one of those movies you walk out of and you're just really glad that you spent the time to watch it. And even though it's only like an hour and 30 minutes long, I highly recommend you go check out Late Night with the Devil either in the theater or, wait till Shudder on April 19th. But I suggest you just go watch the damn thing because I give it a straight A. Okay, my paid advertisement for Shudder is now over. As always, I'll mail you guys a cut of some of my money from my sponsorship.
You've never given us some of the money. Fuck you.
Oh, would you look at the time? I gotta get going. So until next Shudder sponsorship ad, peace and love, guys. Segment's over. You can go now.
Yeah, I'm okay. I can go now. No.
I am looking forward to watching that.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the time the show goes out, it'll be the next day that it's on Shudder. So
Do it. All right. Damn it, I forgot that All right. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. As always, you can follow Chris and I on Instagram at OTCBill, at Cthulhu. If you're interested in coming to the Don't Forget to Leave world premiere, you can get tickets through the links in my bio there. Would love to see you. Love to hang out. It's really the only thing I got to push right now.
Yeah.
So,
I'm good.
Cool. If you're a member of our Patreon, patreon.com/outside the cinema. Send us your flicks. I think I got a couple that came in this week. We need more. Everyone always sends them in. He's like, I don't know if you need any more. We need more. If you are on the Patreon. So send them in. If you're not, sign up and then send us movies when you sign up. Cool.
Yeah.
I think that's it for us this week. Everyone have a good one, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Bye.
Secret boyfriends, petty jealousies, orgies, and lesbian games.